Consider this question: why is it that a woman may go faithfully to church, yet remain untouched in the deeper chambers of her being? We often imagine that change is guaranteed by walking into a holy building, bowing, standing, singing. But the ritual itself is not transformation. The walls do not absorb your sins. The hymns do not cleanse you if your heart is only echoing words and not listening to the silence beneath them. The first sign is ritual without transformation. You can light candles 1,000 times, yet if you burn with anger, gossip, resentment, or fear, the flame outside has not yet ignited the flame within. The second is the mask of devotion. We learn how to smile, how to recite the right phrases, how to look the part of the faithful one. But masks are heavy. And when you return home, the mask falls, revealing the same face, unchanged. The third sign is comfort in repetition. Church becomes routine, a familiar bench, a familiar sermon, a familiar song. But routine is not revelation. Revelation unsettles, questions, stirs, and even offends. Without that discomfort, you are not transformed, you are only entertained. The fourth is the echo of old habits. After service, after prayers, after communion, do you return to gossip, judgment, bitterness, envy? Then what happened was only a performance. The echo of habit was louder than the whisper of grace. And finally, the fifth sign, the unseen opportunity. Every sermon, every prayer, every sacred text is not a command but an invitation. An invitation to see yourself anew, to rise above the roles you cling to. Mother, sister, victim, survivor, and awaken to the raw truth of who you are. But invitations can be missed if the heart is too distracted. So the question is not, why don't you change even when you go to church? The question is, what are you actually seeking when you walk through those doors? Comfort or awakening? Validation or transformation? Change is not in the building, nor in the ritual. Change begins when the sound of the choir fades, and you are left alone with yourself. It begins in the courage to drop the mask, to break the pattern, and to let the silence of truth transform you from within. We often confuse activity with awakening. A woman may rise early on Sunday, dress carefully, and sit faithfully in her place each week. She bows, sings, and follows the rhythm of the service with precision. But what if all this movement is only movement? Rituals are not wrong, they are beautiful, symbolic patterns handed down for centuries, yet without inner participation they are like a dance performed with no music in the heart. The body moves, but the soul is silent. The human mind loves routine because it gives comfort. We repeat gestures, prayers, and traditions thinking they will shape us automatically. But true transformation cannot be outsourced to repetition. It requires an inner spark, a willingness to look honestly at oneself, to face the shadows that ritual alone cannot touch. Without this spark, the repetition becomes a shield, protecting us from the very change we secretly long for. Think of water poured over a stone. Week after week, the water flows, but the stone remains the same. It is not because water lacks power, but because the stone resists absorption. In the same way, spiritual practices wash over us again and again. If the heart remains closed, if the mind remains stubborn, the soul is left untouched. The ritual was performed, but the person was not transformed. There is a subtle danger in this. The very familiarity of ritual can trick us into believing that something deep has happened. We leave the building with a sense of relief, not realizing that the relief came from habit, not from healing. In fact, sometimes ritual is used as a substitute for true confrontation with our lives. We polish the outside while the inside remains unexamined. So the first sign is not that ritual is empty, but that ritual alone cannot change you. Its beauty lies in pointing toward transformation, not in replacing it. The service, the hymn, the prayer, they are doors, but you must walk through them. Without that step, you return home unchanged, carrying the same burdens, the same bitterness, the same fears. And so the woman asks, why have I not changed? The answer whispers back, because the ritual was never meant to do the work for you. We are skillful at wearing masks. A woman may enter the church dressed in reverence, every gesture rehearsed, every phrase polished. She kneels when others kneel, she sings when others sing, and she wears the solemn face of one who is faithful. Yet beneath the mask lies the same restlessness, the same resentments, the same secret turmoil. Outwardly devout, inwardly unchanged. The mask is not always worn consciously. Often it is inherited. We learn from childhood how to behave in holy spaces. We are taught when to bow, how to pray, even how to speak in a tone that sounds religious. But all these outward signs can become costumes. They impress others and they even comfort ourselves. But God is not deceived, nor is the soul fooled by its own performance. Wearing the mask of devotion can become addictive. People begin to expect it from you. The pious words, the gentle smile, the appearance of calm. And so the mask hardens into identity. You no longer know if you are truly kind or if you are simply playing the role of kindness, because it looks holy. This is the danger of performance. It blinds us to our own truth. Consider the wariness that comes from holding up appearances. Masks are heavy, though they may look light. A smile that hides bitterness, a prayer that hides pride, a hymn that hides judgment, all of these drain the spirit. The performance in church may last only an hour, but the dissonance continues when you return home. You cannot rest in your own skin, because you have become divided against yourself. The mask also prevents real connection. If you are busy maintaining an image of perfection, then no one can meet the real you. Fellowship becomes shallow, conversations become rehearsed, and friendships remain fragile. For how can someone truly love you if they never see you? The mask may win you respect, but it will never win you intimacy. Yet, paradoxically, the mask of devotion is often worn out of fear. Fear of being judged, fear of being seen as weak, sinful, or broken. But true transformation begins in the place where fear ends. When you dare to bring your flaws into the light, you discover that honesty is more holy than performance. A single tear of authenticity has more power than 1,000 polished prayers. So the mask of devotion is not only a barrier to change, it is also a missed opportunity. Behind the mask is a woman longing for freedom, longing for release, longing for real encounter with God and with herself. To drop the mask is frightening, yes, but it is also the first step toward true transformation. The question is not whether you look devoted, but whether you are willing to be unveiled. Even if the unveiling shows imperfection, there is a strange safety in repetition. A woman may take her place on the same pew, sing the same hymns, listen to the same familiar rhythms of Scripture week after week. There is comfort in knowing what comes next, in the predictability of ritual. But comfort is not the same as transformation. Comfort may soothe the mind, but it rarely awakens the soul. Repetition has its beauty. It binds communities together. It connects us with ancestors who performed the same practices long before us. The words of prayers, spoken for centuries, carry a timeless resonance. But the danger comes when repetition becomes an end in itself. When we cling to the routine simply because it feels safe, we lose the very power those practices were meant to release. The human heart is clever at avoiding change. Instead of facing uncomfortable truths, we settle into patterns that require nothing new of us. The church service becomes background music, something we know so well we no longer hear it. Like a lullaby, it calms us but never challenges us. And if worship only comforts without confronting, then it has failed its deeper purpose. Think of the prophets, the mystics, the great teachers. None of them came to offer comfort alone. They came to disturb, to awaken, to shake us from the sleep of habit. Yet habit is what many of us secretly prefer. We do not want the message that overturns our lives. We want the one that confirms what we already believe. We want the repetition that reassures us, not the revelation that unsettles us. When comfort becomes the goal, growth stops. The soil of the heart becomes hard because no new seed is allowed to fall. We guard our routines as if they were sacred when in truth they are only containers, and a container without content is nothing more than an empty shell. The ritual is preserved, but the transformation it was meant to spark never ignites. There is also pride hidden in repetition. We say, "I never miss a Sunday, I know the hymns by heart, I have memorized the prayers." But these accomplishments are not signs of awakening. They are signs of familiarity. Familiarity is not intimacy. You can repeat the words of love endlessly and never truly love. In the same way, you can repeat the words of worship endlessly and never truly awaken. Repetition lulls us into believing that attendance is enough, that as long as we keep showing up, something will automatically change. But transformation does not work like that. A body can sit in the same seat for 50 years and remain untouched. Presence in a building does not guarantee presence in the heart. Yet repetition itself is not the enemy. It becomes powerful when infused with awareness. To sing a hymn you have sung 100 times, but to sing it as if for the first time, that is transformation. To pray a prayer you know by heart, but to let the words pierce you freshly, that is awakening. Repetition is a tool, but it must be used with mindfulness, not with sleep. So the third sign is this: when church becomes mere routine, you mistake familiarity for faith and comfort for growth. But if you dare to let repetition break open into revelation, the ordinary patterns of worship can suddenly become extraordinary. The question is not whether you repeat. The question is whether you remain awake in the repetition. A woman may leave the church with her head bowed and her lips still warm from prayer, but by the time she returns home, the old ways greet her at the door. The same words of gossip rise easily to her tongue. The same sharp temper flares in her household. The same envy whispers in her mind when she compares her life to another's. The ritual was performed, but the habits remain. Old habits are like shadows. You may step into the light for a moment, but the shadow follows you faithfully. Church can feel like light, a temporary brightness, a moment of relief. Yet as soon as the service ends, the familiar shadow of behavior falls back into place. Unless there is true inner change, the echo of habit will always drown out the voice of grace. This is why many wonder, why do I feel renewed in church but unchanged in life? The answer is simple: the service stirs the surface, but the roots remain untouched, and roots grow deep. Anger, pride, jealousy, bitterness. These are not trimmed by a single sermon. They are only transformed when you are willing to dig into the soil of your being and face what lies beneath. Habits are powerful because they promise comfort. It feels easier to return to the old pattern than to step into the unknown of change. To remain bitter requires no effort. To forgive requires courage. To keep gossiping flows naturally. To remain silent takes discipline. To judge others feeds the ego. To love them humbly wounds the ego. So the old habits persist because they cost less in the short term. But what we fail to see is the price of these habits. Each time we choose the familiar echo, we delay our own transformation. Each time we slip into gossip, resentment, or selfishness, we dim the light we once felt in the sanctuary. The habit seems small, harmless even, but it corrodes the very heart that seeks renewal. The tragedy is not that habits exist, but that we defend them. We say, "This is just who I am, I have always been this way." Yet such words are chains disguised as identity. To cling to them is to refuse the possibility of becoming new. The church invites us to resurrection, but many prefer the grave of old behavior because it feels familiar. Even worse, the echo of old habits can make the rituals themselves hollow. How can a prayer for forgiveness be sincere if you have already decided to return to bitterness? How can a hymn of love ring true if you have no intention of extending love beyond the walls of the sanctuary? The echo mocks the ritual, turning holy words into empty sound. Yet the echo of old habits is not invincible. It is exposed in the smallest moments of honesty. The first time you pause before repeating that cruel word, the first time you choose silence over gossip, the first time you forgive when resentment is easier, in these moments the echo begins to fade. Transformation is not sudden thunder, it is often the quiet decision repeated until it becomes new habit. Still, one must be watchful. Old habits die hard, but they do not die alone. They resist, they struggle, they return. That is why transformation is not a one-time event, but a daily practice. You cannot walk out of church once and expect all shadows to vanish. You must walk out each day with vigilance, humility, and courage. The echo of old habits is not meant to shame you, but to awaken you. If you notice that your actions outside the church contradict your prayers inside it, this is not failure, it is revelation. You are being shown where the work must begin. You are being given a mirror, and the mirror does not lie. So the fourth sign teaches us this: attending church without changing your habits is like planting seeds and never watering them. You carry the potential for new life, but the soil remains dry. The echo will continue until you choose to live differently, not just worship differently. Change is not measured by how you enter the church, but by how you live after you leave it. Every visit to church is more than a ritual, more than a gathering, more than a tradition. It is an invitation, an opportunity to awaken, to shed the old, to step into the new. Yet this opportunity often goes unseen, hidden beneath the comfort of routine and the weight of distraction. The doors of the church open wide, but many walk through them without noticing the doorway of transformation standing before them. The unseen opportunity lies not in the sermon alone, nor in the hymn, nor in the prayer, but in the moment between. That silent pause when the heart is still and the spirit is listening, that is where transformation whispers. Yet we are quick to fill silence with noise, quick to rush past the pause. In doing so, we overlook the very seed that could blossom within us. Every sacred word is more than information, it is invitation. A scripture read aloud is not only history, it is a mirror. A hymn is not only melody, it is medicine. A prayer is not only words, it is a doorway. But if we approach them only as rituals to complete, we miss the deeper call. The opportunity was present but unseen. Why does this opportunity go unnoticed? Because the eyes of habit do not look for it. We come to church expecting comfort, not challenge. We expect reassurance, not revelation. And so when the message pierces, when the spirit stirs uneasily, we turn away. Yet it is precisely in those unsettling moments that opportunity is greatest. Growth rarely comes in comfort, it comes in disruption. The unseen opportunity is also hidden by distraction. Minds wander even as lips recite prayers. Eyes scan the outfits of others while ears half listen to the sermon. Hearts worry about tomorrow's work, today's meals, yesterday's grudges. The body is in the pew, but the soul is elsewhere, and when the soul is absent, the opportunity passes unnoticed. But here is the mystery: the opportunity never truly disappears. It waits patiently, returning each week, each prayer, each breath. Like sunlight, it is always shining, even if the curtains of the mind remain closed. Transformation does not abandon you, it waits for the moment when you are ready to see. To see the opportunity, one must come to church not as a spectator but as a seeker. A spectator watches, evaluates, critiques. A seeker listens, surrenders, opens. The unseen becomes visible only to the one who comes not to confirm what they already know, but to be surprised, even undone. This is the posture of transformation. Consider this: a single sentence from a sermon, truly heard, can reshape a life. A single note of a hymn sung with the heart can heal a wound. A single prayer whispered with sincerity can alter the course of destiny. The opportunity is not in the length of the ritual but in the depth of attention. Yet too often we look for transformation in grand moments, visions, miracles, overwhelming emotions. We miss the quiet ways the Spirit works: a subtle conviction, a gentle stirring, a simple reminder. These quiet opportunities are overlooked because they do not fit our expectation of how change should look. But the unseen opportunity often arrives disguised in simplicity. The unseen opportunity also requires courage. To notice it is to be confronted with choice. You can either step into the discomfort of change or retreat into the safety of habit. This is why many avoid it unconsciously, because the cost of transformation is real. It asks for surrender, for honesty, for letting go of what no longer serves you. But the reward is greater than the cost. To embrace the opportunity is to taste freedom. It is to walk out of church lighter, clearer, freer than when you entered. It is to see not only God more clearly, but yourself more honestly. The unseen opportunity is nothing less than the chance to awaken into your true self. So the question is not whether you attend church, but whether you notice the invitation hidden within it. Every service is a doorway, every prayer is a threshold, every hymn is a window. Will you walk past them distracted and unchanged, or will you step through and be transformed? The fifth sign reminds us transformation is never absent, only unseen. The invitation is always before you. The opportunity waits patient as the sunrise, and the moment you choose to see it, the moment you dare to step into it, the very question, "Why don't you change?" even when you go to church, dissolves into silence, for change will already be alive within you.